Hi everybody, my name's Rebecca and welcome back to My Bookish Travels. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on the Incarnates series by Avery Williams. In case you guys have not heard of this series, this video is good for you. I am going to be talking about the first book, The Alchemy of Forever, as well as the sequel, The Impossibility of Tomorrow, trying to get like the light to hit the books right because these covers are absolutely stunning and they work so well together. I just love these books so much. I'm going to be doing this review in 3 parts. So the first part is for those of you that have not read these books that just want something spoiler free. That's what you're going to get. I will give a warning before the second and third parts of this review. And the reason for that is I'm going to do separate spoiler spots for both of these. It's more so because I did write notes after I finished the first book so that I could actually kind of do this breakdown because I loved the first book so much. So if you guys are wanting to get comfy cozy, let's jump into the book review. I also just realized when I went to put the books down on the floor that they're not actually the same height. What? Oh well, that's okay. We'll just pretend it's the male and female version of the books. One can be taller than the other. Jumping into the spoiler-free section, The Alchemy of Forever follows our main character, Serafina, who at the start of the novel is at a masquerade ball. Who doesn't love masquerade balls? Like, you had me there. We have Serafina, though, coming in contact with a boy named Cyrus and inadvertently ends up getting caught in the midst of a situation that does end her life. Now, it ends her life in her physical body because Cyrus forces her to drink an alchemy solution that he is carrying around with him, and he ends up explaining to Serafina that it actually separates the body from the soul and spirit. So they're 2 separate units, and this way she is able to move into a new body by kissing them and is able to maintain life. So flash forward quite a few centuries and you have Serafina in modern day times living her life, and she is no longer wanting to be an incarnate, and she decides to actually run away, and in the process of trying to end her life, she inadvertently ends up stealing the life of Kaylee, who is in a car accident and is starting to die. And because Serafina is at the weakest point as an incarnate, she goes to try to save her, but inadvertently ends up stealing her body instead. And thus the story begins. Well, it has begun, but like where it really takes off and continues from there. So for me personally, I just found that the books had such amazing writing. I know that sometimes you'll read something and you're like, it just feels really slow paced, or it's too fast, or the writing doesn't work. I just found that the writing did everything. I found that the author definitely went at a really good pace with her writing. She did a really good job not revealing everything all at once. She did a really good job at the end of this one, making me purchase this one right away because I was like, I can't wait. Thank goodness this is already fully published, because I was not in the patience mood. I was like, buy this book now. Another thing that I really liked about this was if you take out the alien aspect, then this very much reminded me of The Host by Stephanie Meyer. And I mean alien aspect on The Host, not with this, because they are all humans. The author also did a really good job at making the alchemy aspect very logical, which I'll kind of go into more in my spoiler section, but sometimes if you read something that has science in it and it's going a little more in depth, sometimes it can get really confusing and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and you're like, where is the author's thinking in this? This definitely explained it very well, and the author did a really good job making you really like Seraphina as a character and really have your emotions thrown all over the place. I really enjoyed the mystery aspect as well because you didn't always know what the author was going to do next, and the romance in it is also really beautiful and adorably sweet as well. Overall, this series is a 5 out of 5 for me. Individually, I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, and I gave The Impossibility of Tomorrow 4 out of 5 stars. I'll go into more detail in the spoiler sections as to why I gave them those review stars. So if you guys have not read these books, I'm going to just have you kind of step out of the room now because I'm going to go into a spoiler section for The Alchemy of Forever. And if you have read it, then let's jump into the spoiler review for The Alchemy of Forever. So with regards to this book, I think that the author did a really good job of focusing mainly on the 4 main characters in the story: Cyrus, Seraphina, Noah, and Kaylee. And I'm including Kaylee. There's a lot of things that end up coming out with regards to Kaylee in this that you're very confused on how you feel about her. There's a lot of mystery surrounding Kaylee, and she is, even though she's not in the story herself long, she is actually very crucial to a lot of the things going forward because Seraphina is inhabiting her life. Now, Noah I found was very interesting because he just seems like this adorably sweet boy next door, even though he's like across the street, I kind of gather. And he has some family troubles, and it's not really gone into too much, but I think that the author did a really good job of not having everything said right away with a lot of the characters because you don't always know right away about something. And the other thing is, sometimes if you've known somebody for so long, such as Kaylee and Noah, they're not going to be talking about things that they probably already know about each other right away. And then the other 2 that we have that are in the story are Seraphina and Cyrus. So I feel like there's 3 separate stories kind of taking place overall. You have Seraphina and Cyrus, you have Seraphina as Kaylee with Noah, and then you have Kaylee and Noah. And I think the author did a really good job of separating each of them. I think it was really good that over the course of the story, you don't necessarily see it right away, but you do see it as the story progresses, that Cyrus is a very abusive character. He's not really that easygoing. He wants to be in control. He wants everybody to kind of have him as their son. He wants to be their center, and he wants them to rely on him and him alone. And you can see that his relationship with Seraphina is extremely unhealthy. That was done very well, where again, wasn't portrayed right away, but it does progress over time that you do start to see that as an issue. So a few of the things that were logical about the alchemy, it's explained that it was discovered around the Black Plague. It was something that you would only need the serum once, and it allows you to take over the body of the person. And again, they'll already have an identity in place, so you can just take over their entire life, including their finances, their family, their jobs, pretty much everything. You're able to inhabit the body for 5 to 10 years before your body will start to break down and you'll need to again inhabit a new body. And you're also seeing any type of ailments that that body might have had at the time that you took over that body would instantly be healed, such as any sicknesses, any type of injuries, any allergies. Those would be healed and you would have a perfect running body. Some of the questions that I was left with at the end of this story were things such as, what did Cyrus do to Noah? Did he inhabit his body? Did he take over Noah? What happened? What did Cyrus do? Because you know that Cyrus is not okay with Seraphina being with anyone other than him. So did he kill Noah? Because we know that when they inhabit, again, part of the alchemy, when they inhabit a body, they kill that other person. Like, they're gone. They don't just take over the body when they leave. That person dies. Also, I got thinking about what would happen to Serafina in 5 to 10 years when Kaylee's body starts to die. What happened to the druggie at the start of the novel? What happened to the bag that Kaylee had that had Cyrus's notebook in it? And obviously, going back to that first question, what form is Cyrus going to be in when we start the next book? Because Cyrus can jump whatever body he wants. Like, he can inhabit whatever he wants. He doesn't have to stay as one person. He just has to kiss someone and he can become that person. So we're looking at the fact that, logically speaking, we're back to square one with the first book, because when the next one begins, we have no idea what's going to happen, who Cyrus is going to be, and it's a whole lot of mystery that I was left with at the end of this novel. Overall, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I just didn't have anything that I didn't like about this book. Like, I loved it. And in the process of getting ready to do this, I ended up reading that this was actually the author's debut novel. So good on her for, having such an amazing writing style from the start. So now, if you've only read this first book, do not proceed. I mean it, do not proceed. I'm going to be spoiling The Impossibility of Tomorrow for you guys. So if you do not want to be spoiled on it and you want to read it, do not proceed. Okay? I warned you. If you proceed at this point, you cannot blame me for any spoilers you may hear. Okay, let's jump into The Impossibility of Tomorrow. First off, I want to tell you guys that all of these questions that I had at the end of the first book were answered. How awesome is that? The author is like, I knew what my readers are going to be thinking, and I'm going to answer them. And she did. She did. The first question, what did Cyrus do to Noah? Nothing. He was raising him up to make him part of their clan of Incarnates. He was going to change him. He was going to provide that. He was tutoring him on all of the things that he should not have been tutoring him on. And for that reason, he did not kill Noah. But I am left with a large question on, did Cyrus do some body hopping? Because I feel very strongly that there was some weird body hopping going on, because there were so many instances where I was suspecting so many different people of being Cyrus that I couldn't. I had doubts on every single character in this novel, just the same way that Sarah did, because I didn't know who to trust. At one point, I'm thinking it's Noah. The next, I thought it was, what was his name? It was Eli, which that turned out to be, like, true, that he was inhabiting Eli. I feel so bad for Eli. Like, I feel like his character got such, like, the short end of the stick when it came to, like, character death. And then at one point, I'm thinking Cyrus was her brother, and then I'm like, it's not Kaylee's brother, and then I'm just all over the place. Like, every single character that could have been expected or thought of being Cyrus was, like, 100% what I was thinking. I even thought Cyrus was the police officer. Like, totally did not expect it to be one of the other Incarnates, who ended up being really weird and creepy when he found out about Kaylee. I just, like, definitely suspected every single character. The author did a really good job of making you suspect all of these characters. I thought it was Reed at one point in time. I would have liked a bit more information on that, because I feel like it wasn't just paranoia. I feel like Cyrus could have been body hopping, and that could have been a thing too. We didn't get answers to that, and that was, like, one thing that I did have questions about. We also end up finding out a bit more about Tara and what happens with the book. I was actually kind of surprised with how they went direction-wise. Again, that was one of the ones where I found it was very quick and it wasn't dealt with as well, and that was the fact that Serafina tried to save her after she OD'd, and she was actually doing well at the hospital. By the way, why did the hospital tell a random person about this person in the hospital? Just saying, that's not something that normally happens. So I felt like that kind of pulled me out of the book, because I was like, no, that's not how that goes. She tried to save her, and then you end up finding out that the incarnate that was in the police officer's body, he had killed her, and nothing was ever said further on about that. And I was like, oh, well, she had an even less recognized death than even Eli had. Also, finding out what is going to happen in the future, listening to the situation between Noah and Sarah at the end, that he wants to be an incarnate and her being okay with that. I felt like it really pulled back from the initial start of the story, where her thing was she was not okay with killing these innocent people to steal their lives. And all of a sudden, you take Cyrus out of the picture and you put Noah in there and she's okay with it again? I don't know. It seemed very strange. And I also felt like it seemed out of character for Noah, because he seemed like such a nice guy. And he seemed like in this one, there was a lot of change with his character personally. And I don't know if it's because they brought on the family drama. But I just felt like it was very out of character that all of a sudden they're both like absolutely fine with killing people to take over their lives. It didn't work for me, and that's actually personally why I took a star off. Now, two other things I wanted to mention was, first off, the situation with Madison and Rebecca, where they had been killed a number of weeks earlier, as you end up finding out from Cyrus with what he was saying when he overtook Madison's body so that he could get Kaylee back. I just feel like it was really strange because nothing was ever really addressed with Reed and Rebecca. First off, their characters came in quite strange. There really wasn't a rhyme or reason for why they came into the story. Also, it was very strange that the parents are actually never actually in the picture. So again, it added to the actual drama and paranoia. But nothing actually got said with the fact that when Cyrus killed Rebecca, who was the other incarnate, Rebecca just disappeared, because that's what happens to the incarnates when they die. But what about Reed? Like, that was his sister. Like, no one's going to address the fact. Like, Rebecca had an even worse death than even Tara did, because Rebecca, like, just disappeared. And the final thing is the bit of the open ending with Cyrus. He's in a mental ward for youth as Madison, and he is creepily still, like, very happy with where Sarah has gone with this situation and is planning to come after her when he gets out. I love how her friends have been able to put in that they're relatives of Madison so that they can get updates if she ever disappears. Where are all of these people, like, not having things checked? It seemed very strange. So this book had certain gaps that I didn't really like. So again, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I still really loved reading this. I really loved the duology, but I also found that there were just certain discrepancies that the first book didn't have that I found the second one did. And I will talk to you guys again in my next video. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.